Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. So what I like to do is kind of go through a statement, how to write it in conditional, write it as a conditional statement, as well as write it as the converse, the inverse, and the contrapositive. So the first thing we want to do when we're given a statement is write it into conditional form. And remember, a conditional statement is if-then. So we're going to have the if, the hypothesis, and then the conclusion. So in the first example, I have a right angle measures 90 degrees. And you can kind of see there's kind of two parts of this, right? The first part is having a right angle. And then the second part is measures 90 degrees. So the first thing I always like to do is just kind of identify what's going to be my hypothesis and then what's going to be my conclusion. So I can say this first part is going to be my hypothesis. And then the second part is going to be my conclusion. So therefore, if I want to write this in if-then format, I don't just want to say, throw in an if and a then. Don't say just if a right angle then measures 90 degrees. You still want it to, kind of make sense. So you can say if an angle is right, or we could say if there is a right angle, if there is a right angle, then, and a lot of times what I like to do is just kind of box the if and the then. And that just kind of helps me remember exactly, what is my hypothesis, what is my conclusion, or where they come. Then it has a measure of 90 degrees. And obviously, you can shorten this and elongate it however you want to. If there's a right angle, then it has a measure of 90 degrees. You could easily do if it is a right angle, then it's 90, then it has a measure of 90 degrees. But there's at least one example. Now, the important thing about this is I'll just kind of color code this. So again, here is our hypothesis, and then blue is going to be our conclusion. Okay? And it's just very, very important to make sure we have that, because when we're going through the different forms, we want to remember, all right, so if P, then Q, right? And a lot of times that's how we wrote them. Here's our P, and then the blue is our Q, right? And that's the way that I kind of remember them is the if P, then Q. So let's kind of do the converse is just swapping them. So the converse is basically just going to be a swap of the Q and the P. So if it has a measure of 90 degrees, well, if an angle measures 90 degrees, then it is a right angle. OK? So you can see basically what I did is I just swapped the blue and the red. Now the next one is going to be the inverse. Now remember, the inverse is basically going to be the same if P then Q, but just negating. So we got to think about, what is the opposite of having a right angle? Well, it's not going to be 100. It's just basically saying it's not 90 degrees. Or if it's not a right angle and the measure is not 90 degrees, well, there's not like an exact inverse of that. It's just going to be not being 90 degrees. So in this example, we could say if an angle is not right, then it is not 90 degrees. And you can basically see what I did is I did opposite of P, and there's my opposite of P, and then I did an opposite of Q. Okay? And that is going to be the inverse. Then the last one is going to be the contrapositive, which is going to be the if inverse, or if not Q, then not P. So that's the contrapositive. So that one looks like this. So we have our if. So let's look at not Q. It is not 90 degrees. So if an angle is not 90 degrees, then it is not a right angle. OK? And you can see here again, what we did is we did the not Q and then the not P. And there goes your basic, all your statements. Now, so that was one with words. And a lot of times we use definitions and so forth, with words. But we can also use some algebraic statements. And you can see here's an equation. And we know this equation is, oops, I'm sorry, that's supposed to be a plus. There you go. So we know the equation is true because if you were to subtract 1 on both sides, you get 8. 2x equals 8. Divide by 2, you get x equals 4. So, but again, all we simply want to do is just kind of write this as a conditional statement. Now, this one is a little bit easier to write because we're not really dealing as much with words. So we don't have to be as careful with how we're saying things and so on and so forth. So for this one, if I want to write the conditional statement, again, I can kind of say, all right, here's my P, and then here's my Q. Right? If P, then Q. So let's write this as a conditional statement. So conditional, I'm kind of running out of space. If it works. So my conditional, which I didn't write up here, the first one over here is conditional. So conditional, if 2x plus 1 is equal to 9, then x equals 4. And again, I'm just going to box these in so you can kind of see. So it's that if P, then Q. So therefore, the converse is if x equals 4, then 2x plus 1 equals 9. Right? The inverse is going to be the exact opposite of my conditional statement. So if 2x plus 1 does not equal 9, right? And that's going to be kind of the inverse, is the equal sign with the slash through it does not equal 9, then x does not equal 4. And then the last one is the contrapositive. And that's going to be, again, if not Q, then not P. So if x does not equal 4, then 2x plus 1 does not equal 9. And there you go for you. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That is how you write a statement and conditional form, as well as determine the inverse, the converse, and the contrapositive. Thanks.